What's up, guys? Eric Bray, Focus Fishing Guide Service, Table Rock Fishing Intel. Got another video fishing report for you for Table Rock. It is Monday, January the 4th. First report of 2021. Doing this on Monday. I probably won't get it posted till Wednesday, to be honest with you. It's later in the day and I won't have time to do it tonight, and then I've got a pretty full day set up for tomorrow. So pretty good chance this won't get posted till Wednesday. It's supposed to be rainy and nasty on Wednesday. So anyway, as far as our lake level is concerned, we're at 915.43, which puts us just about a half a foot high. All that rain and snow we got has finally made it into the lake. So the lake has come up. The core is running, let's see, when I looked before, they were running 2 units. So they do have some current going through the lake. Hasn't really affected the fishing all that much. As far as water temperature, 49 to 51 is what I'm seeing. I'm here at Mill Creek today. Launched at about, I don't know, 11:30, 12, and was seeing 49 when I launched. The last spot I was in, I saw 51.6. So pretty much that 49 to 51 seems to be the temperature range. Still catching fish. I was only out for a couple hours just trying to fill in some gaps in a video that we're going to release on Table Rock Fishing Intel next week. And I don't know, I had 12 fish with 10 keepers in about 2 hours. So they are still biting, and biting pretty good. Best way to stay on top of that, of course, is becoming a pro member of Table Rock Fishing Intel. That way you get the most recent reports, daily reports, weekly reports. You get the maps, you get the feature videos like the one we're going to be releasing. Actually going to release one today and going to release more next week. But that gets you in the know of everything you need to know to catch fish on Table Rock Lake on a very consistent basis. But if you're coming down, say you're going to fish the lower end of the lake, the deep bite is by far the best bite we've got going pretty much all over the lake, but definitely down at the lower end, the deep bite's the best thing we got going, with either swim bait, jewel scuba spoon, Rapala jigging wrap, or drop shot rig. Any of those are working. Most of the fish are relating to trees in the guts of the creeks. That seems to be where we're catching a lot of them. But they are moving with the amount of current they're running. The wind just came up in about the last half hour. It has been moving the shad a little bit. So you might catch them in one creek one day, go back into the next day, there's no shad. There'll still be some fish around, but you really can't get bit without the shad. So you need to find these deeper creeks where the shad are. Most of the fish 30 to 60 feet deep. Did catch one about 85 foot deep today, but he was kind of an outlier. Everything else was 30 to 50. For the most part, and it's been a good mix. I mean, I caught largemouth, smallmouth, and spots today, all deep. Everything I caught today was on a scuba spoon here in the mid-lake area. Other bites that are working, you can't catch them on a jerkbait right now. With this wind coming up, I imagine they'll start moving towards the banks. Steeper banks, channel swing type banks with a little bit of wood cover on it. You don't want a whole forest of trees going down the bank, but a few isolated pieces of timber. Throw a Mega Bass Vision 110 or the Spromic stick. You can get bit doing that. And you can catch them on a swim bait too, or an A-rig. Guys are really starting to catch them on an A-rig. I talked to a couple of guys who fished, I guess it was Sunday and yesterday, and they caught them pretty good on an A-rig. So keep that in mind as well. Fishing that A-rig again on those steeper banks. Most of the fish are over 20, 25 foot of water around timber. You got to have some sort of cover, timber, brush pile, even boat docks, to hold those fish. They're not just out there on their own roaming. Come here in the mid-lake, like I said, I was out for about 2.5 hours, had a dozen fish with 9 or 10 keepers. Everything I caught was deep today. Everything was 30 to, well, I caught that one that was 70, but most of them were 30 to 50 foot deep in the guts of the creeks. I ran 3 different creeks today. First one had no shad. I think I had 1 bite in there. Didn't hook up with the fish. Second one had a little bit of shad, and I caught a couple in there, but the third creek I went to had a lot of shad in it. Shad were about halfway back, and that's where I caught the bulk of the fish right before I came in. So keep that in mind. You got to have shad around. Catch them on a scuba spoon, catch them on a jigging wrap, catch them on a swim bait, catch them on a drop shot rig, whatever you prefer to fish deep. You can definitely catch fish deep. Stick bait bites starting to work down here as well. Again, throwing it on the steeper banks, steeper points with a little bit isolated cover. Most of those fish are holding 20, 25 foot deep overall depth. They're only suspended down about 8 or 10 foot deep. Don't really have to let it pause too long because the water's just not that cold. So definitely have a stick bait tied on if that's your cup of tea. And then the A-rig bite. The A-rig bite has been really strong here. A lot of fish coming on an A-rig, steeper banks. They're a little bit deeper on the A-rig here for one reason or another. Most of the guys I've talked to and the few I've caught doing it, these fish are holding, probably over 30 to 40 foot of water, and a lot of them are down about 15 to 20. But you know, using the electronics to see the fish and put the bait right in front of them. We have been catching them on an A-rig down here as well, so keep that in mind. And then we are catching a few on a jig too in the Kimberling City area, mostly on the Jewel Pro Spider jig. Around boat docks, they are a little bit deeper, most of them 15 to 25 foot deep, so I'm using the 7/16 Spider jig. In Okeechobee Blue has been my best color. I have been throwing it on a beaver. It just doesn't have as much action, but you've got to fish it really slow. These fish are not really chasing a lot. You've got to work slow, methodically, hit the shady areas of the dock. That's where you're gonna find those fish. Go up into the James River and definitely want to have an A-rig tied up the James. A lot of fish coming on an A-rig. Steeper banks with a little bit of wood cover. They're not as deep there. They seem to be over 20 to 30 foot of water, but the fish are only down about 10 to 15, and they are definitely holding tight to the cover. You get a windy day like right now, and they'll probably pull off of that cover a little bit, but if it's calm, you're going to need to put that A-rig real close to the timber or real close to the brush pile to get them to come out and hit it. Catch them on a jerk bait up there too, Spromic stick, Megabass Vision 110. Don't have to let it pause for long, same deal. Steeper banks, channel swing banks, those sort of things are where these fish are gonna be at. And you wanna work that bait fairly quickly around isolated cover. If you go down a bank that's just covered in trees, chances are you're not gonna get as many bites as if you go down a bank that has 2 or 3 trees on it. Those fish group up in those trees, you get a little competition between the fish, they'll come out and hit it. If there's just one fish on a tree, pretty good chance, unless you hit him in the face with it, he ain't gonna come out and hit it. And then the jig bite, again, around boat docks, around brush piles, really seems to be where these jig fish are. I've been throwing the Jewel Pro Spider jig, 7/16, Okeechobee Blue and Bass Whacker up there. Matched again with a beaver has been my better trailer. Just don't seem to need that extra movement right now. But the key to fishing a jig right now is fishing it slow. You've got to fish it slow or you're not gonna get bit. If you don't fish it slow, you're not gonna get a bite. So keep that in mind. White River, deep bite is very strong in the White River. Jewel Scuba Spoon, Rapala Jigging Rap, Kitech Swim Bait, and a drop shot. All of those are working. Most of the fish are coming out of the creeks, out of the guts of the creeks. The bigger creeks seem to be a little bit better because the shad don't tend to leave them as much. I fished a couple of smaller creeks last week, caught a few here and there, but as soon as we went into Baxter and went into Big Indian, the fish were a lot easier to find there. There were a lot more birds in there, there was a lot more shad in there, so kind of key on those bigger creeks up the White River seems to be the best method right now. Again, these fish are going to be suspended around treetops near the main channel or the gut of the creek. Fish are 30 to 50, and the overall depth doesn't really matter. It just depends on where those shad are. But most of the fish I've been catching are 30 to 50 all over the lake. A-rig bites working up there too. Again, isolated pieces of wood on steeper banks really seem to be the key for the A-rig right now. And most of the fish are suspended 10 to 15, 10 to 20 feet down around those trees, over 30, 15 to 30, 15 to 40 even. You're just basically looking for them with your live scope or with whatever electronics you have. If you see those fish back in there, you can certainly start to find those fish and get them to chase. The stick bait bite's working as well, stick bait, jerk bait. Again, isolated timber on steeper banks, work the bait fairly quickly. Don't let it sit for long. It's not like in the wintertime where you gotta let it sit for 30, 40 seconds to get them to come up and eat it. Most of these fish are fairly aggressive if you hit the right pieces of timber. If you're hitting an entire row of timber, chances are you might have 1 or 2 fish on a tree. If you hit a bank that's got 2 or 3 pieces of timber on it, there's going to be more fish on those isolated pieces of timber. They're going to be a lot more aggressive. So keep that in mind if you're going to go fish a stick bait up the river. Guys, it is the first week of January. We can finally say goodbye to 2020. Hopefully 2021 will be a much better year for all of us. And Happy New Year, by the way. Fishing's been good, surprisingly good. The weather's been kind of weird. We did have to cancel our tournament on Saturday because of how cold it was, and then we got snow and ice and freezing rain and real wrath of God stuff. So did have to cancel that tournament, but we do have another one coming up on the 23rd out of Mill Creek right here. But the bite's been good. Catching fish every day we go out. Most of what I'm catching them on is deep, but I'm not saying that's the only bite. You can catch them on a stick bait and catch them on an A-rig. So I think that A-rig bite's really going to turn on here before too much longer. But the best way to stay on top of that, again, is to become a pro member at Table Rock Fishing Intel. Get those daily reports, get those weekly reports, all the feature videos, everything we do to make sure you guys can find and catch more fish on Table Rock is available to the pro members. So take a look at that, check it out, get the one-day membership if you don't want to invest right away. That way you can check out everything. If it's for you, cool, sign up for the annual membership for 45 bucks and you get that information for a full year. So, but if you're coming down, want to hire a guide, give me a call. It's Focus Fishing Guide Service. You can reach me with 417-860-4743 or hit my website, focusfishing.com, and either shoot me an email or book online. Either way, I get back to you as soon as I can. Guys, thanks for watching the videos. Take a minute to check out Table Rock Fishing Intel if you haven't done so, but thanks for watching. Can't wait to hear from you. We'll see you on the water.